A second look at those COVID excess deaths. Oh, we're going to go there. Hello, this is ChartGPT today. I've been hearing a lot of talk about these excess deaths. It seems to be climbing in some of the, shall we say, internet global podcast sphere. You can see here it's just kind of ticking up here on the Google Trends. So I thought, well, what are they talking about? I know nobody wants to talk about COVID, and neither do I, but, it is kind of a curious subject, and I wanted to kind of look into it a little bit since I haven't looked into it for quite some time. I know there was a recent kind of a podcast by Tucker Carlson where Bret Weinstein comes on, and he basically says he sees credible estimates that's something like 17 million deaths globally. And I guess he's suggesting that is from the COVID vax. To be clear, I'm not saying that. This is what they said. So I thought, well, let's get into this and see what this looks like. Of course, 13 billion. And you take a look at all the vaccines that have been taken, and 17 million deaths is quite a few. And if you look at the odds of that, that's basically 1 in 700. If you do the reverse here, it's showing you the handy-dandy AI. For out of every 100 people, you get 0.13 deaths if you calculate all this out in terms of the number of doses. Now, there's been a lot of debunked stories. They're scattered all over the internet. I don't even have to post them here. But people are saying that this is not true, etc., etc. So I thought, well, let's kind of reverse it. First off, reverse engineer this. So first off, I take a look at this New York Times. This is kind of the current rate. We're cruising to somewhere between 60,000 deaths even this year, according to this, according to the New York Times. I'm not sure how they do that. About 1,000 deaths per week, according to New York Times. Because I'm not sure if this is entirely true. Sometimes just simple people die of pneumonia all the time anyway. But anyway, let's get away from that subject there. Let's get into the actual CDC number. Now, I posted the links on the post link on the description box. You have to follow it, and you can see where I got this data. And basically what we're doing here is we're laying out the number of all deaths that the CDC reports. I had to do some machinations here, but in 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, we were cruising around 2.8-ish deaths per, and if you look at previous years, it's pretty the same. 2.8 million deaths per year in America, and that's U.S. This is U.S. And then the pandemic comes, we jump to close to 34, almost 35, back down to 34, and we're still cruising around 3.3. So we're still about 9.5% over, let's say, the baseline of 2019. And if you go back, they're pretty consistent. So we do have excess deaths, and even if you subtract what New York Times says in the number of COVID, we still have over 200,000 non-COVID deaths. Of course, if you extrapolate this out, that would be 8.35 million deaths over the entire globe. We use the AI to figure that out. And you can see, so if you just assume 200,000 non-COVID deaths that are excess, then you have to ask yourself, well, where are these coming from? So we asked the AI, where could these possibly coming from? And here's what they came up with. Reduce access to health care because of COVID. Yeah, that may be true then, but is it true now? Mental health impact, that's probably true. Economic strain, that's probably true. Disruption of vaccine program, nobody's taking it anyway, so I'm not sure that's true. Delayed diagnosis and treatments during the time, yes, but I'm not sure that's true today. Increased domestic violence and abuse, well, that may be true. But somebody does have to answer the question, where are these excess deaths coming from? So I think it's a valid question. Whether they're coming from the vax or not, I would have no idea. But one needs to do some more study on this, but because there's definitely a case to say that it's somewhere between the 18 to 17 million extra deaths happening around the world, and one has to ask themselves, why is that? So again, we're not necessarily against vaccines or pro or negative, but on the other hand, there are excess deaths that needs to be answered. So he's got a good point there. Here's a kind of an odd, the excess death risk. Here's where we're at there. You have a risk of around drowning or in a motorcycle. That's kind of where you're at, from going from cancer, heart disease, all the way from a dog attack. These are the different 1 to 1 in. We're about 1 in 1,000 is the approximate. In actuality, when we figured ours, we reverse engineered our numbers. They're not too far off from what Bret Weinstein said. So he's telling the truth. The only problem is the reason for that may or may not be what he suggests, or not. That needs more study, but for certainly it's something to look at. Anyway, would you take the vaccine? Take our online poll. Follow the description the post link in the description box to see if you and tell us whether you would continue to take these vaccines or not. Obviously, most people are not. In any case, don't forget to subscribe.